Here's an interview from one of our past shows on Rock and Metal Revival. If you're interested in hearing full shows, go to our Facebook page and check out our list of affiliates for times and places where you can hear Rock and Metal Revival. There's brand new music from Mike-Tramp. It's called The Road, right here on Rock and Metal Revival, and it comes from his upcoming release titled Second Time Around, and we were fortunate enough to have him with us today. We want to welcome Mike to the show. How you doing, Mike?
Thank you so much for having me, man. I got something to do today.
Well, you know, with everything that's going on, it's always good to have something to do. And I know I like listening to a lot of new music, and I've been listening to a lot of your music for years. And from what I've heard from this release, your fans are going to be very happy about this new release. Tell us a little bit about Second Time Around.
Well, you know, I mean, it's actually been my aim since I started my solo career in 1996, oh my God, so many years ago. After, at that time, been in three bands, and, you know, that being equivalent to being married three times, I made the decision that, okay, I'm not going that way anymore. So now, 12 solo albums later on, when I look back and I see album by album, I realize that I accomplished what I wanted to do, and that was really just be me and write about the journey through life. And I call this kind of like, you know, Tramp's Endless Highway, where each album is sort of, you pull off an exit. Mm-hmm. You sit there, you look behind where you've been, you think about maybe where you're going and stuff like that, and then you move on, and of course, the next exit you pull off will be the next album. But you're following a character. You're following one person, which in this case happens to be me, through all the albums. And I've never wanted to stray away from my style of rock and roll. So when you mention that you think the fans are going to be happy, that's because I continue delivering sort of what they're used to, just a different color, a different subject, you know, or a different place in the journey and things like that. You know, I sometimes, you know, I come up with all these silly ways of describing things, but it's kind of like your grandmother's spice rack in the kitchen. You know, sometimes some of them have like 3 rows, and I've always figured I was one of those spices in the second or the third row that when you use that spice and when you pull it out, there's no doubt what spice that is. It also happens to be not something you use every day, like salt and pepper, but when you use it, it's because you crave for that spice. So I want my fans or the people that like my music to, when they reach for a Mike-Tramp album, to get exactly what they're craving.
You know, that's what I was going to bring that up. You know, I've really appreciated the 12 solo releases that you put up. And when I pick up one of your solo albums, like you said, I know what I'm going to get from a Mike-Tramp solo album, because you've pretty much stuck with that same formula of music, and I respect that a lot. Do you think that's one of the problems with the music industry, is that everybody tries to be flavor of the day and not who they really are as an artist?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no, and a lot of other things. But I've used another analogy. I remember back when we were recording the last Wide Line album, and you go in there with your producer, and you sort of have a set plan. Then 2 or 3 weeks later, the A&R guy from the record company shows up and listens, and maybe makes a comment that has nothing to do with the music, but the comment affects the producer, who now starts changing the game plan, where a musician or an artist should really just follow, you know, what he sets out to do. And I think that what possibly happens sometimes is because, of course, all of us want success, probably more the success that, you know, comes with cash, mm-hmm. you know, and a lot of people, you know, and yourself, you know, that obviously doesn't exist anymore, but that was in the past. So if fans don't respond, or the public don't respond to somebody's product, there's a lot of people that have the tendency to want to change to the next album.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's the thing where you just have to accept that you're the orange person, and there's the brown person, and there's the blue person. And when people want the orange, you'll be the one picked. It's just one of those things. We can't have it all. So I have tried and been part of something early in my career of changing like the weather. And it's probably one of the worst feelings there is when you look back at it. So another part that I decided to do in '96 was that I was going to do my music. I was going to be me 24 hours a day. I write about me, the way I see the world, the way I feel that day, the way I felt yesterday, where I'm going, where I've been, and all in between. So I don't ever have to sit there with pen and paper or the guitar and have to invent anything. It's simply just an extension of myself, good or bad. And I'll take the criticism and stuff like that, because I'm not going to be anything but myself.
And that's what I've always really appreciated about your solo career. And I was, Mike, I was fortunate enough to get to see you play a few times with White Lion back in the day. And I was really looking forward to catching your show with Firehouse here in Milwaukee on the 15th. On these shows, are you doing mostly your solo work, or are you throwing in some of the White Lion songs along with them?
Well, here's actually the surprise, if it is a surprise, because this is something that obviously has followed me since the end of '91 when I ended White Lion. And then, is sometimes, in the late '90s when I started going back out on the road and playing from time to time, people were always asking my agent and stuff like, is he playing any White Lion, stuff like that? And I would show up at the venues, and some places, the club went as far as putting White Lion plays here tonight.
Oh, man.
There's just some people that'll go that, so I've had to live with that. Once I started doing my solo show, meaning just me and the acoustic guitar traveling around, my set was 50-50. And I always remembered where I came from and stuff like that. And I always wanted to get, but I just wasn't promoting it that way. I thought that, the fans would know me well enough that, I've written all the songs. So when I stand out there and play a song, I don't necessarily look at it as being a White Lion song or a Mike-Tramp solo song. The songs come from the same guitar and the same fingers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm releasing this new album, but the tour is basically called The Songs of White Lion. So it's a 2-hour, 100% vintage classic White Lion. Of course, it's me and another guitar player on electric guitar. We got a little bit of some drum loops behind. So we're taking these classic songs into like a new place, which basically makes you feel quite comfortable, because it's not a rehash of 80s style, but more about songs, or the songs that fits in with where I am today. I mean, I'm going up there, 59 years old, singing and presenting the songs current. I'm here today. This is the moment I'm in.
Excellent. It's
not yesterday, et cetera, et cetera. This is where I am, and a lot of the fans who come have seen the shows really appreciate, these, down to the ground kind of versions of the classic White Lion songs. And I've actually enjoyed playing them this way, because I always said that I would never go out and try to do White Lion full band and the old style, because that was me back then. That's not me today.
Well, with the toll that the coronavirus is now taking on live music around the world, Mike, do you see yourself rescheduling these dates that have been canceled so far? Or are you thinking about maybe doing the U.S. later this year or next year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry that we didn't get into that, and maybe there hasn't been enough. It's only because we've been waiting a little. It's like, give the people a break. Give everybody just a break. I mean, it's like everybody's flooding everybody. We're moved the entire tour starting August 26th till October 5th.
Nice.
So the whole tour, almost the whole tour. Actually, I had to cut it short because I'm committed in October and November and December in Europe. So yes, if everything goes well, crossing my fingers, we're starting on the 26th in LA, and we'll work our way up there. And I did see the date for Milwaukee. I just can't remember it right off of my hand, you know.
Outstanding. Well, you know, another thing I wanted to talk to you about is I see that on your website you're taking pre-orders for second time around, and I see that you also got it available in vinyl. Now, I'm a huge fan of vinyl because I like to hold something in my hand when I'm listening to music. I don't know.
I like that, yeah.
I just do, whether it be a CD or vinyl. I was one of those kids who read all the liner notes and all the lyrics and stuff. And I see that you have both those options available for fans to pre-order.
Yeah. Last year released it on cassette tapes too.
Wow.
You know what? I'm nostalgic to the tease, man. It's simply as that. I mean, obviously it's not groundbreaking anymore. Almost every artist that have a little bit of respect for themselves does a limit amount of 180 gram colored vinyl or something else. And I'm pleased that you said holding something. I mean, you weren't necessarily just saying something that sounds different or something. It's exactly the way I feel, and I always talk about it during the show and from the stage, that there was a time that, you know, when you went to the record store and the guy or the woman behind the counter actually was an expert in the field, and you got into a conversation, and it's, oh man, if you like this, I got something for you, and you know that suddenly just disappeared, and then you just went in there, and you know nobody behind the counter, just like, you know, took your money and then sent out. So this thing about coming back with the vinyl is about that, recreating that feeling, and I put a lot of work into the artwork and the feeling of holding it, you know, the quality of the paper and everything like that, everything, you know. So I'm just not ready to roll over and die. I want to remember the days when I fell in love with rock and roll, and it has to do with that whole scenario of going to a store, you know, buying something, carrying it home, you know, and the interesting thing about vinyl, it's like opening a bottle of wine. You let it breathe for a little bit. It's like there's a preparation. I'm going to listen to music now. It's going to take about 2 or 3 minutes to prepare that. You know, you have a different kind of appreciation of it after you're excited about it, and your heart starts beating. How, you know, you're not just pressing steam or a playlist or something like that, scratching your ass, and you know, hey, I'm barely breathing. Everything is on automatic. No, you at that moment you're actually thinking. You're actually alive. You know.
Amen to that. Now, Mike, I got one final question for you. We do our show here in Wisconsin, and the question is, if you could go back through your solo releases or even the White Lion catalog, is there a song that you think that could have used more cowbell?
Yeah, well, you know, probably. It's just one of those things that I actually have a sound man that has a hour and a half pre-show music, and every song has cowbell.
That's awesome.
You got to do something these days.
That is awesome. Well, Mike, we want to thank you for joining us today, and you are welcome back here anytime on Rock and Metal Revival, and we're really looking forward to this album second time around coming out.
It's my pleasure, man. And you know what? All the power to the fans out there, man. They're the ones keeping rock and roll alive.